Hey guys, today's project is a fun earrings project. This is a kind of a dressy pair of earrings. You can dress these up, you can dress these down. It's a fairly easy wire wrapping project. I'm going to go slow so that you can get all the steps. And if you will notice, we've got some herringbone wire wrapping going on. I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get yourself a 20-inch piece of 24 gauge wire. Okay, you want to be sure that you've got enough wire to work with here. Don't skimp on the wire, because if you run out, it's really going to ruin the look and you'll have to start completely over again. Okay, so the first thing I like to do with my 24 gauge wire is I like to come down about 4 inches on the wire. Okay, and then I'm going to make a 90-degree bend. Okay, then I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers and place the wire running between the barrel of the round nose pliers, and I need to decide what size loop I want, so I'm going to place that exactly where I want it on the mandrel of the pliers. I kind of use the middle area of the pliers for my loops, and then I'm going to take that tail end of our wire and I'm going to go up and over the barrel of the pliers. Okay, and then I'm going to readjust my pliers. And I'm going to continue around with my wire all the way around. And I'm actually going to wrap around the barrel of the pliers twice. Now the reason for this is because we're using that 24 gauge wire and it's a little bit thin. So I like to reinforce the loops that are on either end of our project. Okay, so I've wrapped around the barrel of the pliers twice. Now I'm ready to do the wire wrapping. So I'm going to switch hands. I've got our long straight section of wire here. Let me scoot over, there we go. And then I have my tail section of my wire here. I'm going to wrap around, that makes once, and twice. I'm going to wrap around 8 times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So what we end up with is about 1/4 of an inch of wrapped wire. Okay, so then you just come in with your cutter tool and go ahead and trim that tail off. All right, so when you take it off, this is what you've got. You've got about 1/4 of an inch of wrapped wire, and you've got your double loop just to kind of reinforce. And if your loop slips and it is not quite lined up, you can always go back in and kind of fix it so that the loops are laying nicely on top of each other. Okay, so now we're going to thread on our bead. We're using a 16 millimeter oval shaped bead. It has some of those facets in it, but you can use whatever you want. I'm going to pull that down. Okay, and now you can either measure with your ruler, or you can kind of eyeball it to decide where it is 1/4 of an inch is, holding with your pliers. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and make your 90-degree bend with your wire. Okay, so you've left yourself plenty of space here to make your wire wraps. Okay, so same thing, we're going to come in with our round nose pliers and we're going to go up and over the barrel of the pliers once, adjust our grip, go all the way around, and we're going to do it a second time. Open up the jaw of the pliers to allow that wire to go through. Okay, and now we have 2 loops on our pliers. Okay, so now I'm going to switch hands, and now I'm ready to do the wire wrapping. Do once, twice, and you want to go all the way down. You should have enough room for all 8 of your wraps. And it doesn't matter if these wraps have a little tiny bit of space between them. It's okay, because we're going to cover all of those wraps up with our herringbone technique. Okay, so now when I take this off the pliers, I've got my wire wrap on both ends. Okay, and I have this really long tail of wire that we're going to use for our herringbone. Now, we want to be sure that the wire is coming out across the top of our bead, okay? You don't want this to be coming out behind, so make sure that this last wrap, before you get started with your herringbone, is coming this direction, okay, across the top, okay? So now, all we're going to do is we're going to hold that bead and hold this wire wrapping on this end with our fingers, and we're going to take this long end and we're going to guide it gently along the edge of the bead. Okay, right up to the wire wrapping on the other end. And then we're going to take that wire and wrap it one time around the wire wrapping that we've already done. And then we're going to guide that wire back around the other side of the bead, okay, up to the wire wrapping, and then we're going to wrap around once, okay. So now when you look at your bead, you've got one wrap on either side, okay, and we're just going to continue this process. So I'm going to hold the bead and I'm going to go along the edge of the bead and I'm going behind the first wrap, okay, laying flat against the surface of the bead, okay, and then we're going to wire wrap once, and this is going over the top of that first wrap that we did, okay. So now we're coming out this direction, we're ready to go along the other side, okay. So I'm going to turn my bead, running that wire along the side, it's going behind that first initial wrap, okay, then wire wrapping over the top of our last wire wrap. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing, going along the side, going behind the last wrap around that top section, and we're ready to go again, okay. So we're going to make that third wrap along the edge of the bead, coming up to the top, wrapping around once, and now we're ready to do the other side. We're going to make our fourth. And you can see these are laying nicely in a nice little row around the top, okay, and then going back around the side for another wrap on the other side and up around the top. Now we've got room for one more wrap on each side, so we're going to make our last round laying behind the previous wrap, coming up to the top, wrapping around, and we're going to make the last one on the other side, up to the top and wrap around. Now we've still got a little bit of a tail here, okay. You're going to take that tail and you want to wrap it one more time, maybe twice, around the top just to kind of secure it, and then we're going to flip it over here to the back and we're going to come in with the cutter tool and go ahead and trim that off. So that's gone. All right, now you want to double check with your pliers to make sure that nothing is sticking out. Okay, and so when you flip it over, you've got this really cool herringbone wire wrapped bead, and it's got a loop on either end ready to attach to whatever you want to attach it to. And because this is 24 gauge wire, it's very forgiving. So if you need to make any squeezes or if you need to kind of adjust the wire, you definitely can do that. Okay, you've definitely got a little bit of give here in this wire, so you can kind of clean it up before you move on to the next step. Okay. All right, so we're going to sit this guy to the side and we're going to move on to the dangle portion of our project. So we're going to be using a 22 millimeter diamond shaped bead for this. And again, this has the facets, but you can use whatever kind of bead that you want. I'm going to sit him to the side for just a second. You're going to need about a 4-inch piece of 22 gauge wire, and we're going to come in with our round nose pliers and we're going to grab that wire right at the very, very tip. Okay, right at the very, very tip of the pliers and at the very, very tip of the wire. And you are going to take the wire and wrap around the barrel of the pliers right at the tip once, one loop all the way around, and then twice, a second loop all the way around. and you want to stop where you see the beginning of your wire. Okay, so you've got two very teeny tiny loops that you created that are nice and lined up right on the very tip top edge of your pliers. Okay, so now hold that wire and take your tail end of the wire and bend it out this direction, okay, out towards space. So when you take it off, this is what you've got. Okay, so now we're going to take the tail end of our wire and we're going to bend it back and push it through those two loops. Okay. All right, and now we're going to pull it down just a little bit so that we've got enough room to come in with our nylon jaw pliers, and we're going to hold on to that wire right next to the loops. Okay. And now we're going to come in, and I like to use my bent chain nose pliers for this part. I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and I'm going to grab a hold of that tail that's sticking out of the side of the nylon jaw pliers, and then I'm just going to pull. And what you're going to end up with is a knot that you have tied, and you want to pull relatively hard on this wire. Okay, pull, pull, pull. And what you're going to end up with, like I said, is a nice little knot, but it looks like a little rosette. Okay, so you have made your own head pin. All right, so when you take it off, you've got this beautiful little rosette, little knot at the end, and you're ready to string on your bead, which is what we're going to do. So we're going to thread on our bead, and now we are ready to wire wrap our bead. So we're going to come in with our chain nose pliers, and we're grabbing that wire just right at the very tip top of the bead. You want to be laying right against that bead. You don't want any extra room in there. And you're going to bend your wire 90 degrees over the top of your pliers. Okay. Now again, coming in with the round nose pliers. And now this time, because we're using the 22 gauge wire, we only have to do one wrap around. Okay, so we're going to go up and over, adjust the pliers, and go ahead and bring that around so that when you take it off of the pliers, you've got your loop ready to go. We're going to go ahead and thread this directly on to our previous bead. So I'm going to take my tail end of the wire, and I'm going to guide it through the hole, one of the loops here on our herringbone piece, and just give it a little gentle nudge so that these two link together. Okay. All right, and now I like to use my bent chain nose pliers again. I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab that loop. Whoops. I'm going to come in with my chain nose plier, or my bent chain nose pliers, and I'm going to grab that loop so that it is laying flat in the jaw of the pliers. I'm keeping the shape of the loop. I don't have to worry that anything's going to come undone. I'm going to switch hands though, because this is not my dominant hand. So I'm going to hold the pliers, holding that loop in my left hand, giving myself a little bit of space here so that I've got room for those wraps. I know that's kind of difficult for you to see. There we go. You can see I've got that space ready for my wraps. And now I'm going to just do my wire wrapping once, twice, 3 times around. I've got enough room for four wraps. Okay, and I'm going to let go and come in with my cutter tool and trim off the excess. Now, what you will notice is that the bottom loop of our herringbone piece is going one direction, and the loop at the top of our diamond shaped bead is going the other direction. You definitely want those to be going 2 opposite directions in order for this to hang correctly. And you can always come in and clean up just a little bit with your pliers if you need to straighten everything up. Okay, so now the last step of this project, pretty easy, is just to add the ear wire to these top loops on our herringbone piece. Close the ear wire back. And your earring is complete. You've got a beautiful herringbone wrapped wire earring. And like I said, these are on the dressy side. Definitely perfect for your little black dress Or you can dress these down and wear these with your blue jeans. I love the wire wrap in this. I think it's very elegant, but also can be kind of casual, just depending on what you're going for. And definitely changing up the beads makes a difference as well. If you didn't want to use a faceted stone or bead that had that extra sparkle, you could use something matte here, and that would definitely dress this down. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this project. I know it was an easy one, kind of quick, but again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.